There was some lovely pictures from Richard Flagg.
There were. Even my pictures weren't bad, which was a bit of a shock on my phone. Yeah, but we'll talk about that later. Yes, had a lovely chat with Richard. A couple of times I saw him actually over the weekend. He was there Sunday morning.
He's
as well.
a smashing bloke, isn't he? What a nice guy.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think he was in trouble on the Sunday morning, though, because he'd come to see all the balloons take off on the Sunday morning, and I think he promised his wife he was going to be home by 9, and we were still chatting at 10. So, oops. But never mind. Yeah, no, really, really successful. We've been booked again next year already. So, Carlos, get that date in your diary now.
What date is that? So I can do it.
I'll find out. Leave it with me.
Just find out.
I'll find out.
If I put it in there now, my digital diary, then
yeah, it won't get booked around. But it was a brilliant weekend. Really brilliant weekend. It was so lovely to see all the balloons. They're so graceful. Like, you get this big roar of flame, and then just off they go. It's just brilliant.
They just hang there, don't they? There's something quite surreal about it. The way they're just kind of
the scary thing is they don't
overhead.
They don't initially. They go whoosh initially, and then I don't know whether it's a combination of slightly out of sight, if you see what I mean. So that you have you have less understanding of perception, if you see what I mean at that point.
Yeah.
Oh, hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Excellent. That's better. Okay.
Huzzah!
Give us a wave of your T-Rex arms.
What is this?
There's my T-Rex arm.
Oh, Andy hasn't experienced this before, has he?
Seen this yet. Are we live on YouTube?
That's right.
Yes, we are on YouTube.
We are.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Yes, no, I have not experienced this.
No, and it's allowed.
What I was going to say.
We're not doing something that we're not allowed to do. Let's put it that way. Yes, what a treat for you, Andy. It's very cool. Basically, John's been very clever and has managed to animate himself.
But hasn't got the right episode.
As you do.
But it's got the wrong episode up. Oh, well, never mind.
Oh, that's right. You're right, actually. I need to put in the correct
11.
episode artwork. It's been a while.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, Andy, the last show we was on was 511, just so you know.
It's been a while. It's been a while.
Right, where did I put that artwork?
It's on the NAS drive, if
In
that
the
helps.
drive. Yeah, well, that's what I'm trying to find. The NAS drive?
Okay. They haven't seen you anyway, so it's all a big secret for everyone at the moment. Okay, bear with. Oh, come on.
I'm just going to mute while I change this.
Okay. Why,
Looks like a greeter in Asda.
Are you likely to be swearing? What's that? Looks like a what now?
A meet and greet in Asda.
Nice.
I was thinking Morrison's.
Right.
Morrison's,
Okay,
yeah.
very
Other
good.
superstores are available.
Of course, always, every day. Do. Sorry, I know that's McDonald's, isn't it? Don't mind me. I've got food on the brain.
We got to go live.
We are. Oh yeah. Oh, flip.
Well, we aren't live.
Well, we are live, but we haven't. We're supposed to have started. It's gone 7.
Oh, yeah.
Nev, I'm amazed.
I don't need to comment.
No, quite. Absolutely. Okay, here we go then. 30,
We're only an Armando short of a full complement this
30
evening.
seconds late. I'm so sorry, Nev.
What's the collective noun for
A gaggle of podcasters. Yes, absolutely. Who knows? We'll make
I think
one
we can
up.
come up with a better one than that.
Give it a minute. We'll make one up. Here we go. 10,
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3.
Ready in studio. Here we go.
Well, hello and welcome to episode 515 of the Plain Talking UK podcast. I'm Carlos, and this is episode 515. This week, we've got a story about chemtrails, and I mean Contrails, a heavy lift cargo drone. Ryanair is looking to buy more Airbus. Yes, you heard that correctly, and I don't know how to say this, but we're going raw dogging Stay tuned to find out what the heck that is.
I'm sorry,
all
what?
about.
There we go.
dread to
The
think.
tone of the show has gone already. Brilliant.
Thanks, Nick. In the military news, we have great news about the return to active service for the BBMF Lancaster, and an interesting story from China about wings with holes, like a Polo. We've got a full show tonight, so we're happy, very happy, to have our master of the airwaves. It is, of course, Matt Smith.
Master of the airwaves. Wow. I'm very honoured. Don't know what to do with that.
Bye, Nick.
Yeah, okay, you join me in a very warm studio. Apologies if you're watching the YouTube feed. I've got to have the door open this evening because it is just so hot. Carlos did offer to bring a fan round and all that kind of thing, but it's all good. So we're just going to do. I'll try and shut it a little bit. Even the dog has come upstairs. He's so hot downstairs. It's one of those rare days where it's actually quite warm here in the UK.
That is rare, but we've had a late summer. I think that's what most people are saying here.
I mean, to be fair, we've had like 3 or 4 days of summer now, but that's about it, really. Never mind.
Yes, so joining us over in the Vale of Aylesbury, he's our maestro of tech and keeper of the muff, is, of course, Sir Neville Bounds.
Yes, it's very hot here too, as you can see from my picture.
Oh, my.
But I'll correct that shortly. But no, the Muff has had an outing this week over at Duxford, yesterday, in fact. And we'll be playing the rather good interview that I did with Amanda Harrison. Absolutely fascinating story about her attempt to fly from the UK to Australia in a Tiger Moth.
Nev, I'm a little bit worried that you're working on your tan.
Yes,
you've got your UV lamps above your head.
Yes, I'll deal with that in a minute. There's something wacky gone on with my cat, but we'll sort that out in a second.
Jolly good.
I might go back to that actually. That's
lovely. Yes. Well, at least you're in a hot climate there. That would match.
Yes, they are. Here I am in Dubai. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes.
So we're going to say good evening as well to the guy who writes the intros, because I've still got one left to do for this show, and has brought a good kind of gathering of stories for the show this week. Is, of course, Nick Codling.
Hi, Carlos. I'm just wondering, actually, with now that Nev's approaching retirement, he's perhaps thinking about branching out and having a new career in television, perhaps hosting some sort of reality TV show where people go searching for antiques or something.
I think Nev would
it's
be
going
great.
for a bit of a David Dickinson vibe there.
Oh, I see. Right. Okay.
I thought you were going to say something along the lines of Nev sort of presenting something like "Wish You Were Here."
Our very own Judith Chalmers, of course. Yes.
He's got the legs for it.
Of course. Yeah. Absolutely. Never in doubt.
I could just see Nev walking along a sandy beach in Marbella,
oh dear,
presenting a show.
I'll have a go at that, please. If we're if we're going on road trips, thank you. I wouldn't mind that at all.
I have to say, being someone who's spent a few trips in very warm countries with Nev, he does enjoy the sun, don't you, Nev?
Well, yeah, the trouble is it doesn't enjoy me, I don't think.
Right.
I go red very quickly, being the fair... Well, I used to be fair-haired, but look at me now. Yeah, so, but,
distinguished is the word you're looking for.
That's
distinguished,
it, yes. Yeah.
So I'm going to read exactly as is written here by Nick for the next intro for
brace yourselves,
our
everyone.
Amazing fellow co-host on the show. And in the PTUK North Satellite Studio, our bearded aviator extraordinaire back again for more. It's Captain Andy. Way there, pet.
Oh, dear Lord.
Wow.
What's the HR email again?
Yeah. Yeah, it's don't give a crap at airlinepilotguy.com.
And I thought Nev had taken up bodybuilding and gone with all that fake tan he had on.
Yeah. No, what he hasn't told us, he's one of the new contestants on Strictly. That's what he's not told us, you see.
But I will pay him a compliment. I think he's more Alan Wicker than Judith Chalmers.
Oh, okay. Very good. Yes, absolutely.
Yes. But hello, Carlos.
Hello, Andy. Good to see you back again this week, Andy. Looking all fresh and bright and bushy-tailed.
Yes, well rested. Yes, a week at home working. It's been lovely so far. And it's nice and warm in the north as well.
That is unusual. Yes,
That's good.
absolutely.
Any flying, Andy, or have you been sort of office-based since last week?
I'm in the depths of writing a simulator module with lots of regulations and stuff. But then on Sunday, I'm off to Gatwick for 2 weeks to do a course in the simulator. So no flying coming up at the moment. And maybe in a few weeks' time.
Apart from in a simulator.
Yeah.
Oh, well. I mean, God, what an awful thing, hey, Nick? I mean, you'd hate that, wouldn't you, Nick? 2 weeks sim.
2 weeks in a sim, yeah, sound like that would be awful. Yeah, sign me up. Where do I start?
I will add that there are tests involved.
Yeah. He'll give it a go, won't you? You'll give it a go, won't you, Nick?
Yeah, I'll give a good stab at it. I'll try not to miss the airport like I did last time.
Oh, dear.
That will help.
Yes.
Right, so we're going to say hello to everyone who's joined us in the YouTube chat room this evening. Starting at the top of the list, Richard Adams, hello to you. Alan White's also in there, hello to you as well. Mazoos, local listener Mazoos is also in there, hello. Captain Cruz is in there. Darren Smith, hello to you, says, evening, fellow Av Geeks. Nick Codling is in there as well. Mr. Warner, Jonathan Warner's in there as well. Good to see you in there, Mr. Warner. Flyer152. The Balloonfest, he says. Dirk S is also in there. Wouldn't be the chat room without Dirk in there. Hobby Time, hello to you. Masha, the lovely Masha, hello to you. Hope you're enjoying the sunshine where you are. We've got John Jester. He says hello from Germany.
Oh, wow. Okay, yep, cool.
He's having fun there in Germany. No doubt it's hot there as well.
Christie's in Atlanta.
Neil Lamorne says, hi, folks. Hello, Neil. Good to see you in there. Christy G. Yes, hello from ATL, she says. Hello to you, Christy. And welcome to everyone who's joined us this evening. Don't forget, if you're listening to us...
I'm disappointed you didn't have a go at the German there, Carlos.
No.
Guten Abend is what you're supposed to say there. Well done.
Hello.
Guten Abend. It's not that hard, Carlos.
I got a G in German at GCSE.
A G? I didn't even know that was a grade.
That was a grade.
Wow, okay.
All right.
Well, let me guess. That's one up from you, is it? Something like that?
It's one up from you.
Okay, well, victory
at least
there.
I got a grade.
You did, yeah.
What can I say?
Yeah. What a proud day for your parents, I'm sure.
I was more interested in aviation than I was
shock.
learning a foreign language. What can I say?
Yeah.
Anyway, so if you're listening to us on the audio show, don't forget we are live every Wednesday here on YouTube at 7 o'clock in the UK here. So join us in the YouTube chat room. We'd love to see you in there. Don't forget to subscribe and also click that bell icon so you're notified with a little message when we go live at 7 o'clock on a Wednesday. So we've got loads of commercial news stories to get through this week. We've got a little bit of military. Nev's got that great interview to bring us as well later on the show. And we've got what can only be described as a very interesting retro airline ad of the week this week. So
I had a little proof of it, and there's just one word spring to mind.
What, holidays?
That'll be it, yeah. We'll go with that one.
Okay, we'll go with that one.
Lovely, yeah.
So it's commercial news time if all the team are ready.
Yeah, let's do it, shall we?
Just turn on the seatbelt light. Please take your seats and fasten your seatbelts.
I'm joining on the show.
Hello, John. Good to see you as well,
hello.
John. He said,
Yeah,
yeah.
good to see you guys.
Yes, good
Thanks
to
for
see
having me back on board.
How's the weather where you are, John? Because we are experiencing some beautiful weather here in the UK.
It's a bit of a heat wave, probably in or around the 40s or so,
Okay.
something like that. Yeah.
Ugh, my word. Well, be good to get some input from you this week, John, as always, on the stories. This first one this
Be
week
here.
comes to us from bbc.co.uk, and Alaska aircrew detailed chaos after mid-air blowout. So we all remember this story. It broke earlier on this year. The US transport safety officials investigating a mid-air emergency on a Boeing 737 MAX 9 have released thousands of pages of documents, including testimony describing the chaos in the moments after the blowout of the unused plug door. It came as a 2-day National Transportation Safety Board hearing about the 5th of January incident on an Alaska Airlines flight got underway. During the event, Boeing told investigators it will introduce design changes to prevent similar incidents from happening in the future. The blowout triggered the US aviation giant's second major crisis in recent years. In more than 3,000 pages of documents released ahead of the hearing external, the plane's crew described the violent decompression that resulted from the panel detaching mid-flight. The plane's co-pilot told investigators there was a loud bang, ears popping, his head got pushed up into the heads-up display, and the headset got pushed off the head, but almost off my head, he said. It was chaos. And then just all of a sudden, there was a really loud bang, lots of whooshing like air, and the door burst open of the flight deck, the flight attendant said. The masks came down. You saw this galley curtain get sucked towards the cabin. After the hearing, Boeing executives were grilled about the manufacture of the aircraft involved in the incident and the lack of paperwork explaining who carried out what work on the plug door before the blowout. A preliminary report by the NTSB external detailed how after the repair at the Boeing facility, the panel had 4 bolts missing, which should have helped it keep it in place. The safety culture needs a lot of work, said NTSB's chair Jennifer Homday, adding that the plane maker needs to take steps to address the issues. They're working on some design changes that will allow the door plug not to close if there are any issues until it's firmly secured, said Boeing Senior Vice President for Quality Elizabeth Lund. The NTSB and Boeing have yet to find out who was responsible for removing and reinstalling the plug door. But Ms. Lund said 2 workers who are likely to have been involved are now on paid administrative leave. The incident was the latest major blow to Boeing's reputation, and it's resulted in the grounding of MAX 9 planes around the world for 2 weeks and a ban on increasing production of Federal Bureau of Investigation probe and management shake-up. So, obviously, those of you who follow the NTSB on YouTube would have probably seen that they had a live stream at the time, but it was a pre-recorded stream as well, which you can watch online now, of the investigation, the 2 days. I am 3/4 of the way through day 1 of the first part. It is, just to warn you, it is just over 8 hours long, each of the investigation videos on the NTSB's channel. But I will say that if you do get a chance just to sit down and put your feet up on the sofa and watch, they are really interesting. And it is very interesting as well. I know I mentioned to some of the guys in our group, the hosts on the show, that it's quite interesting to see that it's not only an investigation about the incident itself, but it's also a massive investigation into the internal works of Boeing and the company that produced, obviously, the various parts of the aircraft. And I think one of the funniest bits I said to you, Nev, was that the chair of the investigation, I forget her name, is it Jennifer?
Jennifer. Yes.
Jennifer, yeah. She had a go at a few of the people in the room a few times for either not using their microphones correctly, or she even had a go at someone for walking in and leaving the door open halfway through one of the discussions, which was quite entertaining, I will say. But as I said, if you've not seen them, they are on the NTSB's YouTube page. They are 8 hours long, just over, but they do make for very entertaining viewing.
I can't imagine the AAIB in the UK holding such a conference like that. Can you? I mean, the NTSB seems to have more teeth than the AAIB does. I don't know whether it actually does or not, but it certainly comes across like that when you watch it. A very different culture. Whereas the AAIB seems to, in fact, it actually says on its website, its aim is not to cause or to give blame, but to find out what has happened and the lessons learned for the future. This does not seem to be the case with the NTSB. So that's why it's a bit more edgy, I would say.
I think it was hard for Spirit Aero or Spirit and Boeing to give a lot of direct answers because the questions that they were all being asked in the investigation, and you'll see this if you watch it, they were being asked to refer to the systems they had in place a year ago, not now, but a year before the incident happened. So they were having to go back to tell, obviously, the investigators what the systems were in place a year ago. Because obviously, since the incident, they've put loads of different things in place. But yeah, it is interesting though. But if anyone else had a chance to dip into that at all on YouTube? No, Andy?
Unfortunately not.
No. As I said, it is a long video, but it is quite interesting. Obviously, I've still got part 2 to watch, which is another. I think that's 8 hours and 20 minutes. I think
that's the thing with these investigations. They have to go. There's that much to cover. They have to get to everybody who made every individual part, and then who put it together, who worked on it, everything. So it's a huge process.
Yeah. Very, very good, though. So if you get a chance, give it a look. Let us know what you think. Nev, you have got the next story.
Misleading adverts. Has that ever happened before? Well, on sky.com, there might be an issue here because it says that an advert for the world's first transatlantic flight to be 100% powered by so-called sustainable aviation fuel, SAF, has been banned as the advertising watchdog said that it was misleading. The radio ad, which promoted the transatlantic flight, was misleading in its unqualified 100% sustainable aviation fuel claim, said the regulator, the Advertising Standards Agency here in the UK. This is on for Virgin Atlantic, by the way. So future Virgin Atlantic ads referencing SAF must include information explaining the environmental impact of the fuel, the ASA added. The decision strikes at airlines' ability to promote a key plank of their emissions reduction goals. Well, first aired in November, the ad informed listeners about the first long-haul commercial aircraft to fly across the Atlantic using 100% SAF, comprised of sugar from industrial cornstarch and animal fats unsuitable for human consumption. On the 28th of November, Virgin Atlantic's Flight 100 will take to the skies on our unique flight mission from London Heathrow to JFK to become the world's first commercial airliner to fly transatlantic on 100% sustainable aviation fuel, the ad said. When they said it was too difficult, we said challenge accepted. Virgin Atlantic Flight 100, see the world differently. No commercial passengers were on board for this journey, and previously airlines were only permitted to use fossil fuels and up to 50% SAF to power their flights. Now, I think, to be honest with you, a significant proportion of our listeners would understand that 100% sustainable aviation fuel meant that the fuel used was 100% sustainable, but that wasn't the case. Some could be led to believe that there was no negative environmental impacts at all, the ASA said. In fact, Virgin Atlantic confirmed to the ASA that sustainable aviation fuel produced the same level of CO2 emissions during flight as traditional jet fuel. Whilst the production cycle of SAF produces less carbon than regular aviation fuel, the emissions created in flight are still significant, the ASA said, and producing SAF can still have wider environmental costs and trade-offs, the agency added. That's quite an interesting piece of work there. And I think that obviously sustainable aviation fuel and sustainable fuels generally is a very good direction to go in. But I think for the fact checkers out there, you've got to be telling the truth. In fact, the Virgin Atlantic spokesman said, we're committed to achieving net zero by 2050, and key to this will be using SAF, which is one of the most immediate levers to decarbonising long-haul aviation. SAF is a term used globally by industry and government for fossil alternative aviation fuels that adhere to specific sustainability criteria. Whilst we are disappointed that the ASA has ruled in favour of a number of complaints, we remain committed to open, accurate and transparent engagement on the challenge of decarbonisation. So that's their side of the story.
What are your thoughts, Andy?
Do we think...
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, go on, John.
Go on, John.
No, I was going to say, do we think that it should have been worded better? Like, say something more like recycled fuel? Or do you think that would cause even more panic?
Well, sustainable aviation fuel isn't recycled fuel. It's just fuel that's molecularly the same as kerosene, jet A1, whatever you want to call it. So it burns the same, but it's produced from a source that captures carbon, unlike oil, which just is carbon and gets released in the atmosphere. So it's difficult. Sustainable is a word that I'm not a massive fan of. Alternative fuel would be better. That is better for the environment, partly, but it still does produce the same amount of emissions.
Well, I think you've made a good distinction there, though, Andy, in that this is a lot of the time SAF is produced using crops, and those crops will capture carbon. So in that sense, sometimes the production can remain carbon neutral in as much as the crop will absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, and you're absorbing a significant amount of carbon from the atmosphere, and therefore the carbon that you're then creating by burning the fuel that's manufactured from it, it remains the same. So you're not producing more carbon. Everything's on a level playing field, if that makes sense. I haven't explained it very well.
No, that's absolutely spot on. But it is ultimately all about efficiency, and SAF is the future, in my opinion. Hydrogen's still a very long way off, and if we can capture some of the carbon that we've already put out there and then put that into its own cycle without creating more, then surely that is better.
Yeah, we can't get away from the fact that by having an internal combustion engine, that is, admittedly with cars, we have ways of making the exhaust more, the exhaust emissions more palatable or safer or cleaner. That's not really possible with a jet engine. So there's always going to be an element of carbon emissions, although if you look at an aircraft engine now compared to one 30 years ago, it's a heck of a lot better than it was. But yes, if you can maintain that overall net carbon as being exactly the same, you're still burning carbon, but you're not making anything worse.
True. John Jester is saying in the chat room, by the way, on this story, I feel like this is all posturing for the press. The focus should be on efficiency. It would help the environment and the economics.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, good argument. Good argument indeed.
Just have that picture in my head, Nev, of the 707 taken off with the four trials of smoke.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
From the
water
BAC 111
engines.
Yeah.
Those are the days.
So at heart, is this just a marketing issue?
I think so. They've what's the word? They've postured this wrong.
Is it what's known as greenwashing?
Yeah.
Ooh. There's a word.
I think it's potentially trying to pull the wool over people's eyes a little bit by saying that or trying to imply that something's better than it is, perhaps. Don't get me wrong, I think it's a step in the right direction, and it's a good thing that they're doing, because it's better than burning fossil fuels, but it is still producing carbon.
Which you can never get away from in a jet engine.
Correct, yeah.
The current and older generations. It's only the future that we can get away from that.
Yeah.
But isn't it good that we're advertising the fact that we've got new types of fuel and there are new ways to be even just a little bit more future thinking?
Yeah. Which is why they just need to rewrite it and redo it to satisfy the Advertising Standards Agency.
Doesn't take a lot to upset them, though, let's be honest.
Very true.
I've just put it in the chat room, but can you imagine a B-52 passenger version?
Oh, how lovely.
With those, that amount of...
Wow.
There'd be some cause for concern there. From sustainable aviation fuel to that secret switch that's on the flight deck of all commercial airliners, Andy.
Well, this is from Imperial College, and this is a study on planet warming contrails. a spanner in the works for the aviation industry. Modern commercial aircraft fly at high altitudes, Modern commercial aircraft flying at high altitudes create longer-lived planet-warming contrails than older aircraft, a new study has found. The result means that although modern planes emit less carbon than older aircraft, they may be contributing more to climate change through contrails. Led by scientists at Imperial College London, the study highlights the immense challenges the aviation industry faces to reduce its impact on the climate. The new study also found that private jets produce more contrails than previously thought, potentially leading to outsized impacts on climate warming. Most people do not appreciate that contrails and jet fuel carbon emissions cause a double whammy warming of the climate. Contrails, or condensation trails, which are not to be confused with chemtrails, which don't exist, are thin streaks of cloud created by aircraft exhaust fumes that contribute to global warming by trapping heat in the atmosphere. While the exact warming effect of contrails is uncertain, scientists believe it is greater than warming caused by carbon emission jet fuel. Okay, so that line there. While the exact warming effects of contrails is uncertain. Published today in the Environmental Research Letters, the study used machine learning to analyse satellite data of more than 64,000 contrails from a range of aircraft flying over the North Atlantic Ocean. Modern aircraft that fly above 38,000 feet, such as the A350 and Boeing 787 airliners, create more contrails than older passenger-carrying commercial aircraft, the study found. Right, we're going to talk about that at the end of this. To reduce jet fuel consumption, modern aircraft are designed to fly at higher altitudes where the air is thinner with less aerodynamic drag, compared to the older commercial aircraft, which usually fly at slightly lower altitudes, around 35,000 feet. This means these higher flying aircraft create less carbon emissions per passenger. However, it also means they create contrails that take longer to dissipate, creating a warming effect for longer and complicated trade-off for the aviation industry. Dr. Edward Grospetti, the lead author of the study and a Royal Society University Research Fellow at the Grantham Institute, said it's common knowledge that flying is not good for the climate. However, most people do not appreciate that contrails and jet fuel carbon emissions cause a double whammy warming of the climate. This study throws a spanner in the works for the aviation industry. Newer aircraft are flying higher and higher in the atmosphere to increase fuel efficiency and reduce carbon emissions. The unintended consequence of this is that the aircraft flying over the North Atlantic are now creating more longer-lived contrails, trapping additional heat in the atmosphere and increasing the climate impact of aviation. This doesn't mean that more efficient aircraft are a bad thing, far from it, as they have lower carbon emissions per passenger mile. However, our findings reflect the challenges the aviation industry faces when reducing its climate impact. The study did confirm a simple step that can be taken to shorten the lifetime of contrails. Reduce the amount of soot emitted from aircraft engines, produced when fuel burns inefficiently. Modern aircraft engines are designed to be cleaner, typically emitting fewer soot particles, which cut down on the lifetime of contrails. While other studies using models have predicted this phenomenon, the study published today is the first to confirm it using real-world observations. Co-author Dr. Mark Stettler, a reader in Transport and the Environment at the Department of Civil Engineering and Environmental Engineering, Imperial College, said, "From other studies, we know that a number of soot particles in aircraft exhaust plays a key role in the properties of newly formed contrails. We suspect that this would also affect how long contrails live for. Our study provides the first evidence that emitting fewer soot particles results in contrails that fall out of the sky faster compared to contrails formed on more numerous soot particles from older, dirtier engines. Even higher in the sky, the researchers found that private jets create contrails more often than previously thought, adding to concerns about the excessive use of these aircraft by the super-rich. Despite being smaller and using less fuel, private jets create similar contrails to much larger commercial aircraft, the analysis found, which surprised the researchers." And there's a few of the bits there about private jets. But there's a few things here that that concern me about their research. Now, within the industry ourselves, we've realised that contrails only form in certain temperature and wind conditions at altitude. And airlines and Eurocontrol in particular are looking at ways to allow routings that stop the formation of said contrails. What's that from Captain Cruz? What does that say, Matt?
Contrails only
so
form,
exactly the same.
Yeah, so contrails only form a certain ambient temperature, form only at a certain ambient temperature. So if there are none, is it sustainable flying?
Yes. Well, that's a good question. But yeah, they only form in certain conditions. Because you'll notice, if you ever look up at the sky, you might suddenly see an aircraft going over, and then suddenly you'll see a contrail form, and then it stops. Then it can start again, which is why certain people think, oh, that's chemtrails, that's somebody spraying us. No, it's purely to do with the atmospheric conditions. So I appreciate a lot of the stuff in here is probably really good, especially about the subparticles making it last longer. But the key here is to avoid the areas where you can actually form contrails. And that's my rant over.
Ooh. It's still something that I don't... Perhaps I'm being a little bit too generalistic here, but I'm not sure anybody really understands it all yet.
Do you think, Andy, that the Met could do more with helping with route planning in that case?
What the Met Office in the UK?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and also, Shanwick and, the people that plan the routes over the North Atlantic.
Absolutely. All of the agencies should be working together to work out where, practically, you can fly through and not create contrails. Obviously, if the whole North Atlantic has the ambient conditions to create contrails, there's nothing you can do about it. You need to fly through it, otherwise you're going to burn through more fuel, and that has an even bigger effect. So yes, it's all balancing it up. But yeah, in the future, and I know Eurocontrol are really looking at this, at ways to do it. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But it's a good little study, and it all helps. The more we can do, the longer the industry lasts.
True, very true indeed.
And Matt, you've got the next story all about drones.
Yes. So we're sort of going back to a very fun conference in many ways with this story. An unusual source, it has to be said, for our stories. It's on the Ørsted.com website, and the story it's Ørsted has launched the world's first heavy lift cargo drone operations at Borssele 1 and 2 offshore wind farm. Ørsted, the global leader in offshore wind, is deploying heavy lift cargo drones, HLCD, for the first time in an operational campaign at the Borssele 1 and 2 offshore wind farm. This pioneering move marks a significant leap forward in operational efficiency and safety in the offshore wind industry. The heavy lift cargo drone will transport cargo from a vessel to all 94 wind turbines off the Borssele offshore wind farm. During previous trials and expertise using drones in other offshore wind farms, Ørsted is using the 70-kilogram drones, which have a wingspan of 2.6 meters, to transport cargo of up to 100 kilograms in an actual operations campaign, after the concept was tested last year at the Hornsea 1 offshore wind farm here in the UK. For this specific campaign, the company has decided to update some critical evacuation and safety equipment in each of the turbines. Normally, a vessel would sail from one wind turbine to the next, using a crane to lift each box containing the equipment onto the transition piece, after which the box would be lifted with the nacelles crane to reach the nacelle and then be moved to the top of the turbine. Instead, the drone will simply fly back and forth from an offshore supply vessel directly to the top of the nacelle. The drone flight from the vessel to the turbine takes about 4 minutes per turbine, while the conventional approach without using drones can take approximately 6 hours. Taking vessel transport between the turbines to and from the offshore into account, Ørsted has been able to complete the tasks at Borssele 10 to 15 times faster than normally. The use of drones to deliver cargo to these locations will reduce costs and time, as well as improve operational safety and efficiency. Drones mean less work disturbance, as wind turbines do not have to shut down when cargo is being delivered. They prevent risk, making it safer for personnel working on the wind farm, and they minimise the need for multiple journeys by ship, reducing carbon emissions in the process. Ørsted is leading the industry in deploying heavy lift drones on a larger scale and in an operational campaign. The company is actively seeking partnerships with the best cargo drone operators and service providers to help grow the supply chain. It's a very interesting story, isn't it?
We're not seeing this yet on the show, have we? Drones being used to supply wind farms.
Different, isn't it? Definitely different. Yeah.
You would have thought that the operational challenges for something like that would be, well, challenging with the weather, because the weather is obviously very changeable in the sea, obviously in the North Sea especially. But we're lucky. I say lucky. We've got a wind farm just off the Norfolk coast, haven't we, Matt? At Sheringham, just off Sheringham,
and Yarmouth,
as well. Yeah,
big one at Yarmouth.
Yeah, the one at Yarmouth is I think it's about 88 wind turbines off
huge,
there. But,
huge site,
it's huge site. But this is a good way, I think, as the story says, a great way of definitely lifting things up as high as they are, because they are blooming high. There's no doubt about that.
I guess the only limitation there is 100 kilograms is not bad, but I mean,
huge,
it's not huge. It's definitely a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
Probably more than I could lift.
And it's far safer than using helicopters with these huge blades around and bad weather and stuff like that. So 100 kilos, that's still quite a lot to put on top of
it is. Yeah, no, definitely. It's, but I dare say, the parts required are significantly more than that quite often.
Having worked on wind turbines for a little while myself, I can say that getting stuff into the nacelle is an absolute pain in the backside.
Is it?
So yeah, this is a tremendous boon for this industry. When you're basically, I mean, all of the stuff arrives at site in all the big chunks. So you'll have the nacelle will already be sort of pre-built with the electricity generator in it. And often, this is a thing that's the size of a small truck. It's a huge, great lump in itself. And then obviously the tower goes up, then they put the nacelle on, then they put the hub on, and then they attach the blades. But you've got all the kit that goes into it, and that's all somehow got to get up there.
Yeah,
and some of these turbines can be, over 100 meters tall. So it's, I think it's a fantastic operation. And it really goes to show how they can really score some efficiency gains by using drones in this way. I think it's really cool.
Let's see what we could do to get maybe some of the drone operators to come on the show. If anyone knows any drone operators from this company, please write into us. Let us know. That'd be a cool interview,
wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So fascinating.
So next story, moving on to, well, it's kind of a Ryanair story-ish. Normally you'd be having this one, Matt. It's me.
Yeah.
Ryanair Holdings, this is from chaviation.com. Ryanair Holdings is targeting a fleet of around 50 Airbus narrowbodies operated by its Maltese subsidiary Lauda Europe. Malta International, including transitioning the A320 Neo family after 2030, according to Group Chief Executive Michael O'Leary. However, the lack of available aircraft is complicating the plans. Airbus is backed up with aircraft deliveries out to 2030, and Lauda leases only run up to 2028-29. So he said, I would be hopeful of either extending those leases or replacing them with other leased A320 CEOs until I can get a deal done with Airbus for new Airbus aircraft sometime in the next 5 to 10 years. Both A320-200s and A321-200s are being considered. The Maltese unit is an outlier in the low-cost Irish carriers group. Otherwise, all Boeing 737 fleets, as we know. Lauda Europe is a descendant of Austria-based Lauda, formerly Lauda Motion, which Ryanair Holdings acquired following the collapse of the former parent Air Berlin Group by 2019. Having inherited its A320 fleet, the carrier has facilitated between plans to expand the Airbus fleet and add A320 Neos and dropped the aircraft in favour of a unified 737 fleet across its AOCs. O'Leary said the plan to retire the 320s was not entirely off the table, given issues with securing new A320 aircraft. He said, "I would like to have bigger numbers of aircraft, Airbus aircraft, in the fleet, but at the moment I can't get them," he said. "If I still can't get them by 2028, then we'll have to return those aircraft and replace them with 737s, he said. I bet Boeing are rubbing their hands together there. The main driver behind Ryanair Holdings' decision to retain the 320s is the training cost of pilots and crew. Lauda Europe currently operates 27 A320-200s, flying exclusively under Ryanair's FR code. The group's 737 fleet comprises of one 737-700 and 396 737-800s and 145 Boeing 737-8-200s, or the MAX, across the four Boeing operators' AOCs: Ryanair, Buzz, Poland, Malta Air, and Ryanair. Yeah, you'd think that with all these, when you see these videos on YouTube of all the aircraft that are sitting in boneyards across over in the US, and I know for a fact there are a ton of A320s sitting in some of those boneyards, which are still, I think a lot of them are still kept either active as in run-up, or they're protected from the elements to be used again. It's surprising that they don't kind of draft some of these back into service if they're that desperate for them.
Well, with the ones in the boneyard, you don't know the life that the airframes actually had, so they might be intact and good for salvaging parts, but the actual cycles on the airframe might be too high for them, especially the short flights that they do now. I mean, if that was possible, I think most airlines would be pulling them out of the boneyards as well, because Airbus are literally backed up until the end of the decade for any new orders, which just shows how popular it is. I do like that he's trying to play Airbus and Boeing off each other, but I don't think Boeing could get them aircraft any quicker either, because they've got their own production issues as well. But it is nice to see that they're keeping the 320, and it's purely on cost, because they've already got 27 airframes and there must be around 500 or so pilots already trained up on it. So if he can avoid having to retrain them on the 737, which will cost a lot of money, then why wouldn't he just stick with Airbus?
Yeah, I've never
At the end of the day, I don't think O'Leary has any sort of
no allegiance to
alliance
anyone.
or allegiance to anyone. It's going to be whatever is absolutely the cheapest option. And yeah, whatever makes the shareholders the money, that's what they're going to go with. So if it means that they're going to change the whole operation to Embraers or to Comac or to whoever else are going to make the cheapest aircraft,
Sukhoi
that's what it's going to happen.
Superjets.
Yeah, well, watch the space.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with them. Seems to be everyone registers their aircraft in Malta these days. Hey, Andy.
Or Ireland.
Or Ireland, yeah. Don't know why. Anyway, Nev, you got the next one, and something that you definitely don't want to be caught doing.
Now, a bit of a disclaimer here. I've got to say that I do not condone anything to do with this story, but I'm quite intrigued by it, and there's a part of me that's slightly impressed by it as well, but you'll see what I mean when I read the story out. It's on simpleflying.com, and it says, Southwest Airlines employee arrested for stealing flight vouchers worth $79,000. A man working as a customer service agent for Southwest Airlines was charged by the St. Louis County Prosecuting Attorney's Office for stealing flight vouchers. The theft was revealed after Southwest conducted an in-house investigation between August the 1st and September the 28th, tracing it to an employee named Brooklyn Jones. According to reports, Jones confessed to the crime and agreed to surrender the vouchers he had printed. He had been using the names of previous passengers and then redeeming the vouchers himself. When he was taken to the international airport locker, police found 119 travel vouchers worth $36,000. Jones revealed that nobody had taught him how to produce the vouchers and said no one else had been involved in such an activity at the airport. He admitted to producing $79,000 worth of flight vouchers, and this isn't the first time that this has happened with Southwest Airlines. In 2023, it was revealed that one of the carrier's employees, Dajuan Martin from Bolingbrook, Illinois, was arrested for making and selling travel vouchers worth nearly $1.9 million. Well, Martin worked at Chicago's Midway International Airport and produced these vouchers using fake names, which he then sold to others at less than face value. He too was a customer service agent for Southwest from November 2018 to June 2022, and he had the authority to issue vouchers for customers who experienced delays and cancellations. Over the years, several workers employed by airlines, airports and third-party agencies have been involved in thefts and arrested. In 2022, a Spirit Airlines baggage handler was arrested for stealing items from checked-in luggage. The employee worked for the carrier at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport and was caught after investigation following several complaints from passengers about items missing from their luggage. In 2023, 3 TSA agents employed at Miami International Airport were arrested for fraud and grand theft following a passenger's complaint. The crime was caught on surveillance camera, with the footage revealing that the TSA workers going through passengers' bags at checkpoint Echo. The accused were seen putting items in their pockets after reaching into the bags. And in October 2023, 7 baggage handlers at New Delhi Airport were arrested after it was found that they stole several items, including gold, luxury watches, AirPods and foreign currency. The arrest took place after Delhi police put in place a special investigation team following reports of baggage thefts in previous months. Quite a story, really, and that takes quite a lot of doing, I think, and I was amazed he was able to get away with it for so long. Incredible, really.
$79,000 that's a fair fair wedge.
You're always going to get caught in the end.
Yeah.
It does strike me as very odd that they obviously had a system in place that was open to abuse for this chap to have been quite so successful with his crime. You'd think that there would be a more robust security procedure, perhaps.
I think the thing is, Nick, that with so many of these things, when there are loopholes, it's always after the event, isn't it? So rather than putting in place methods at the start of it all because they couldn't believe that could possibly happen, it's only when it does happen and they're on the back foot that they have to sort of plug the holes in the
very true
system. But no, you're right though. You would have thought that that would not be possible. Yeah,
it's got a little bit of sort of catch me if you can about it.
Yeah.
Now, Andy, you've got the next glorious story.
Yes. This is from the BBC, and it's no films, no music, no sleep. Is raw dogging long-haul flights heroic or foolish? And we're going to find out what raw dogging actually is. Last week, Damien Bailey posted on Instagram that he just achieved his personal best, a 13.5-hour flight between Shanghai and Dallas without any in-flight entertainment, films, books or music. It's quite tough, honestly, the 34-year-old from Miami, Florida, tells BBC News, but he keeps doing it. Mr. Bailey is part of a new travel trend known as raw dogging, where passengers spend long hours mid-air just staring straight ahead. The longer you do it, the tougher you have apparently proven yourself to be. Just raw dogged it. 15-hour flight to Melbourne, boasts Australian music producer Torrin Foot on TikTok, blinking hard as if to stay awake. No music, no movies, just the flight map. Some also avoid eating or drinking. A few say they don't get up at all, even to use the toilet, but health experts warn that more extreme versions of this trend can pose serious risks. Manchester City footballer Erling Haaland recently joined the trend, posting that he had got through a 7-hour flight with no phone, no sleep, no water, no food, and he'd found it easy. Responses on social media questioned if he had really stuck to his own rules, a common question on similar posts from others. Some wondered if he was a robot, and some simply asked, why? Posts about road dogging have grown steadily over the last year. Increasing numbers of young men, and it's mostly athletic-looking young men, are posting videos of themselves on board, staring at the in-flight map or the safety card, vowing to use the powers of their mind to get them through. As for the term road dogging, it may have carnal origins, but increasingly it is used for anything being done without protection or support.
Oh, no.
For these men, the appeal seems to be the opportunity to prove their resilience and self-control. Some medical experts warn of the significant health risks of taking long flights without food, water, or moving around. They're idiots, says Dr. Jill Jenkins, a GP who also works as a medical escort in air ambulance work. A digital detox might do you some good, but all the rest of it is against medical advice, she says. The whole thing about the risk of long-haul flying is that you risk dehydration. If you're not moving, you're at risk of deep vein thrombosis, which is compounded by dehydration. And not going to the toilet, that's a bit stupid. If you need the loo, you need the loo. But on the whole, the trend business psychologist Danielle Haig says she can see why people would want to spend time in quiet reflection, allowing their mind to wander in our increasingly fast-paced, technologically driven world. It offers an opportunity to recharge mentally, gaining new perspectives, she says. She thinks the trend signifies a collective yearning for balance as people seek to reclaim their mental space and foster a deeper connection with their inner selves. Well, there we go. I've got to be honest, this is essentially what I do as a job, apart from not eating and not going to the toilet and not moving around. Why you would want to sit in the back when you can relax and enjoy yourself and watch a movie, I have no idea.
I mean, it is literally, the ultimate question I have is literally just what, and it was mentioned in the story there, why, for goodness sake,
Yeah.
why? I just don't get it. And I don't know. I mean, although interestingly enough, I noticed Carlos has posted a picture in the group chat now, which means that I wouldn't recommend anybody checks his browser history going forward.
I was a bit reluctant.
I guess that's quite the search term there. To be fair, Carlos,
I was really scared about putting it into the search engine, and it came out with what we're talking about here.
Did it? Oh, I'm very surprised.
Thankfully.
Right. Okay. I mean, I do think they could have chosen a better term to describe it.
How about doing bugger all?
Well, no, that's what you would argue is what you are supposed to do. Like, you would class that as reacting. I get, but there must be a better term that they could come up with other than using one that's associated with a different activity, shall we say?
Isn't this just another version of the mannequin challenge from many years ago? Just sit still and do nothing.
Yeah, why don't they just call it mannequin challenge again or something? 2.0 or something.
I just don't get it.
No,
I mean. Some of the maps as well, they've got a full heads-up display as well. So if they really wanted to be pilots, they don't just have to sit there. They can just go out and learn to fly,
Yeah.
I think perhaps you should try it on the flight deck next time, Andy. Right, when you're in the cruise, just do nothing for the entire flight. Nothing, touch nothing.
Doesn't that describe exactly what he's doing?
No. So what? Don't answer calls on the radio.
No,
don't do fuel checks.
No.
Don't check the systems periodically. Don't talk. Don't eat. Don't drink. I mean, I think we could have a bit of an emergency by the time we get to the other end.
Say, speaking as a nervous flyer, please don't, Andy.
I could sense that the squawk may be turned to 770.
Fortunately, I value my health and my job, so I won't be doing any of that stuff.
Very good.
You don't want to be getting any special escorts.
No.
Is that something to do with road dogging or something else?
What are we talking about now?
I meant aircraft escorts.
Where have we gone?
Military escorts. Let's put it that way.
Military escorts.
Can I just say that Nev is...
That's a very niche market as well.
So quiet. Nev is keeping so quiet. Look at him.
Yes, it's because we're going to change the tone completely for the next story. So I've just got to make sure that I'm able to read the story.
Yes.
Now, of course, we all will have heard about the ATR 72 crash this week. And here at the show, we'd like to express our condolences for the friends and families of what occurred in Brazil last week. Many of you will have seen the videos, and they have been shared widely on social media, but out of respect for those that lost their lives, we've decided not to play any here, of course. What we will say is that although aviation accidents are tragic and sometimes shocking, they always represent a learning opportunity and the chance to grow our knowledge as we learn about failures and how to overcome them. Sometimes those failures are the aircraft, the structures or systems that help keep them flying, and sometimes the failures might be the human factors, the people at the controls. By allowing the investigation teams to carry out their work, aviation as a whole can be better informed and safer. What we do know is that the aircraft involved was flying at around 17,000 feet and was fairly close to its destination. Within a short space of time, it rapidly lost speed and altitude, entering a flat spin which was unrecoverable. Now, there's been a good deal of talk about icing being prevalent in the area, and that's something which the ATR 72 series could be vulnerable to. So we're going to put sort of Andy on the spot a little bit here, as he will have more knowledge than anybody else. So we've just sort of got a few questions to ask him. So yeah. First of all, Andy, what actually causes icing, and can just by descending to a lower altitude allow the ice to melt on its own?
Well, I'll keep it in absolute basic terms. So what causes icing? It is supercooled particles attaching themselves to the wing, essentially. Just like on a cold day on Earth where we get ice forming on the ground in the upper atmosphere, it's very cold, and in certain conditions the water can cool and become ice. Descending to a lower altitude does help with melting the ice, along with increasing speed as well, due to the warming effects of friction from the atmosphere, so that can help as well.
Yeah, and of course we do know that icing has a substantial effect on the performance of the aircraft. So does it cause the aircraft to fly slower, and is it therefore often simply a case of increasing speed and then descending?
So when it comes to icing and lift, what it does is it disrupts the airflow over the wing. It also adds weight to the aircraft, and the key is to getting rid of it. So descending and speeding up again can help. And also, I'm sure we're going to talk about it shortly, but there's anti-ice systems and de-icing systems as well that can help with it.
Yeah, and can you actually detect the onset of icing by a reduction in airspeed? Or what sort of icing warning systems are on the aircraft?
It depends again on the aircraft type. Those susceptible to icing do have ice detection systems that can illuminate a light in the cockpit. Other aircraft, it's simply a case of looking back along the wing, and some have a strip on the wing, on the leading edge, so you can see if ice is building up. And others have nothing. Of course, on some aircraft you can't actually see the leading edge of the wing. It's that large. So you have to take the ambient conditions, which is normally warmer than minus 40 degrees Celsius, but cooler than plus 10 in visible moisture. And then in that case, you would turn your anti-ice or de-icing systems on.
Gotcha. And one of the things that I think we all noticed is that how can an aircraft be flying in the cruise at this altitude in 1 minute and then in a flat spin in the next? How did you think the speed could decay so quickly that it actually entered this condition?
Well, again, I'm not going to speculate about what's actually happened in this incident, but heavy icing and high angle of attack can happen very quickly, leading to a complete loss of lift. It's nothing to do with airspeed, it's to do with the loss of lift causing the descent and also reducing forward momentum as well. So it can happen very, very quickly. And as we saw in this case, if it was icing, we don't know it was, the aircraft fell out of the sky in less than a minute. So it's vital that you know how to uninstall an aircraft in this sort of situation.
Yeah, and of course, weight and balance of the aircraft and centre of gravity is always very important. But do you think that it's true that a twin-engine aircraft like this would be hard to recover from a flat spin because the engines are actually quite a long way from the aircraft CFG in the first place?
Well, CFG is along. It's not along the wing axis. That's along the body axis, the longitudinal axis. The centre of pressure as well is another thing that shifts rapidly when you get a build-up of ice, changing where the centre of lift is on the wing, and it can cause the nose to pitch up to an unrecoverable position very quickly.
So forgive my... so CFG, is that centre of gravity?
Gravity, yes.
Yeah, okay.
So you've got the centre of gravity, so that's where theoretically all the weight from the aircraft is acting down. Then you also have a centre of pressure as well, or lift if you want to call it that, which is where, again, theoretically, if you summed up all of the lift vectors across the wing, where the lift would be acting.
Right.
And normally you try to keep that in the forward regime of the wing.
I mean, it's an awful story, isn't it? At the end of the day, there's no two ways about it. It'll be a long time, I guess, before we find out, what was the actual cause, and perhaps, what as Nev was saying in that lead up, what we can learn to make sure it never happens. It never happens again. And Dirk S is asking, are there aircraft that are unrecoverable because of their bind, like if something goes wrong like that?
That's a good question. I don't think you'd get any commercial aircraft that was certified that couldn't be recovered from the initial part of a stall. I don't really know, to be honest, about if you get into a very deep stall or flat spin. T-tails as well are notoriously difficult to get out of those conditions, which an ATR is a T-tail as well, just like the Dash 8 is. But no, honestly, I don't know the answer.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think John had a question, although he's muted at the moment.
No, sorry. That was exactly the question I wanted to ask. The question from Dirk.
So I've got a question as well, if I may. Andy, I just wondered if you could give us a bit of an overview on what the different anti-icing systems are, and how they might work, and what the pros and cons of those might be.
Yeah, so let's just talk about wings. So there's de-icing systems and anti-ice systems. So in the case of the ATR, it's a de-icing system, and it's a de-icing boot system. So if you imagine you've got the wing, and covering the leading edge is a stretchy rubber surface. And when ice starts to build up, what you can do is you can inflate that rubber to break the ice off. But the key is you can only use it to de-ice the aircraft. So you can't leave it inflated, because if you leave it inflated, ice will build over it again. And then when you de-inflate it, that ice will remain, and you try and inflate it again, the ice won't break because you're at the edge of the capabilities of the boot. It can't stretch any further. Anti-ice systems are normally heated surfaces, so it may be electronically heated along the leading edge, or hot bleed air is pumped inside a duct in the leading edge, which then, when ice is suspected or detected, it heats up that surface, so it melts it off, and it keeps the surface hot to stop ice forming. So it's an anti-ice system, whereas the boots simply remove the ice. There's also, on some GE aircraft, a liquid version as well that sprays onto the leading edge that can melt, sort of like you use on your car, really, to melt the ice on your windscreen and stuff. But a much thicker version of that you can use to pump onto the leading edge to stop ice forming.
I think am I right in thinking some aircraft also have little holes as well, where that hot bleed air will actually kind of come out of little holes in the. That's another one.
I know there's some military aircraft that anti-ice like that. Yep. So that, again, it's using hot bleed air from the engine, from the turbine section.
Okay.
Just give us an idea, Andy, that the temperatures that you do get at the flight levels, sort of when you go beyond 20,000 feet, what kind of temperatures do you see outside of a commercial airliner?
Well, a standard atmosphere, the temperature reduces by 2 degrees per 1,000 feet. So for every 10,000 feet there, you're losing 20 degrees. So 30,000 feet, it should be 60 degrees cooler than the surface of the Earth, which in a standard atmosphere is 15 degrees Celsius. So that gives you an idea. And normally up at cruise altitude, you're looking at around minus 56, 58 degrees Celsius. Wow. It's very chilly. And normally in tests, like I said before, beyond minus 40 degrees, ice doesn't really form. So the area that you really get ice in is from the surface up to around 25, 30,000 feet.
So actually these turboprop aircraft are more vulnerable to that because they do tend to typically fly at slightly lower altitudes.
Yeah, their entire operation is in the sort of realm where you can potentially get ice.
Wow.
Good discussion there. Well done, everyone. Nev, any last...
No, I'd just like to thank Andy very much for guiding us through that area. And as Alan White pointed out in the chat room just now, aircraft such as the BAC 111 as well, with its T-tail, there's lots of history of having to, or lots of instructions about how to recover from stall situations in that kind of aircraft as well. Yeah. But we'll see more about this, obviously, as the reports come out and as the investigation continues.
So that brings the commercial news segment to a close for this week. But it's time. It's that time of the show, isn't it, Nev?
Yes, changing the tone again. Retro airline ad of the week. I'm quite enjoying these because there's so many that I'm sure I probably would have seen in the past, but just don't remember at all. Well, this week we go back to 1983 with the current weather, the way that it's done here, the way that it is in the UK at the moment, at least. It's definitely beach season, and British Airways show us how it's done.
Oh, the Bahamas for £297. There you go.
Yes, please.
That was a very informative advert. I particularly like the BA 747-200. I think I saw.
Indeed. Although I do find it desperately amusing that we were 25 seconds into it before we actually saw an aeroplane.
Yeah, it was 1983. Though. Things were different then, weren't they?
Darren Smith is suggesting that it sounds like an ice cream van coming up the road.
It didn't it? Yes.
I applaud the director's artistic input.
I bet you do. Yeah, absolutely. The Bacardi feeling. Yes, thank you, Captain Cruise.
Definitely, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. It felt more like Malibu to me, but anyway, there we go.
There you go. Alan White's right. Sorry, back in those days, raw dogging was guaranteed. There was no in-flight entertainment.
True. Yeah.
And Richard Adams says that there were some nice coconuts.
Oh, I missed those. Oh.
Carlos didn't.
No.
Honestly, I just love the ads back from the 80s. Dave, what do you think? I mean, that was a BA ad, so obviously, Yeah,
and I think also, coming off the back of the 70s with the oil crisis and all the rest of it, people wanting to cheer themselves up and all the rest of it. So the advertising agencies, obviously went to town on trying to create memorable adverts, and which they did.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Different times, I think, is the
very much so.
I think I'm going to go on
different.
I'm going to go on BA.com and see if I can find a flight to the Bahamas for what was it, Matt?
£297.
£297.
Only £297.
Yeah, I'll see if I can find one.
Good luck with that. Yeah,
good luck with that.
Yeah, absolutely. You might be able to find one from a neighbouring island that's only £297.
Yeah.
To hop over. But anyway, there we go.
Of course, you were very young back then, Andy. I mean, that was the early 80s, so you would have been a mere whippersnapper.
Didn't exist, mate.
No.
Oh.
Yeah, don't get me started on John.
Oh, God, blimey. Moving swiftly on. Right, Nev, you've got the next part of the show to introduce. Very special indeed, this bit.
Yeah, I've had a great week, and of course, yesterday I was over at Duxford meeting up with Amanda Harrison. Now, whilst learning to fly, Amanda discovered a beautiful vintage Tiger Moth, and after researching the amazing pioneers who flew this fragile aircraft, a spark was ignited, and Amanda dreamed of emulating their adventures. So on the 11th of May 2019, she made that dream a reality, taking off from Biggin Hill with the aim of flying to Darwin, Australia in 20 days, just as her idol Amy Johnson had done in 1930. Well, her book, Solo to Darwin, documents one woman's exhilarating journey across the world. Indeed, the launch of her biplane, Solo to Darwin, received extensive press coverage, including print features in the Times and the Telegraph, and TV footage broadcasted on ITV and Channel 5 News. Well, faced with adversity, navigating through tortuous mountain ranges, covered in cloud, across seas, dodging thunderstorms and surviving engine failures, Amanda's route had plenty of highs, lows and dramas. Well, alongside this, she also experienced the difficulties of solo flying a biplane and having to navigate dangerous regions across the world. What makes her expedition even more remarkable is that this was all undertaken whilst recovering from cancer. So she went across 12 countries, 2,600 miles, 46 flying hours, 2 engine failures, 1 aeroplane, 1 female pilot, and that all equals one amazing adventure. So I met up with Amanda at Duxford yesterday, and so let's go over there now and have a chat with her. Well, so here we are at Duxford, a place that we are very familiar with. We've been here many times for listener meetups, and I'm joined today by Amanda Harrison. Amanda, hi, how are you?
Hello, Neville. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Great. Well, Amanda's story is absolutely amazing. So I've read her book over the last couple of weeks, and then I listened to the audio version of it last week. I was just blown away. I barely know where to start with your story, Amanda. So can you sort of chronologically take us through how you got to where you are today, do you think?
Oh, well, how long have you got? My dad was an engineer. He wasn't an aeroplane engineer. He was a power station engineer, and he loved remote control models. And the Lysander was the first model that I remember him making, and he inspired me to fly, and he made me a Paddington bear flying on a marmalade sandwich when I was a kid. So of course I was going to get interested, and he very kindly gave me a flight at the age of 14 and a motor glider. And when I took off and the wheels left the ground, I just thought, wow. And there was something about being in the air that I absolutely loved, and I still get that feeling today. And I'm sure you do when you're doing what your passion is or anything. It's that kind of thing.
Your father was an amazing inspiration for you, wasn't he? You talk very candidly about him in the book. It's fantastic, isn't it, when you have a parent who is so influential over you, isn't it?
Yes, I mean, this is it. How do we inspire more women into aviation? I didn't realise it was unusual for me to be a woman in aviation until I got to commercial side of things, and then there's only 6% of us. And this is the for me, my dad was kind of like, you can do whatever you want as long as you're good at it and as long as you're professional at it and as long as you earn money at it. The last one, not so much at the moment. But yes, having my dad as that inspiration was amazing. And also, of course, you've had your own health issues as well previously. I mean, you talk about that extensively in the book. Was that another part of the inspiration for where you've ended up with this? It was the inspiration to actually get on and do it, because one day, next day, tomorrow is never going to come. And I was always talking about what I wanted to do, what I wanted to fly, and the adventures, and then having the breast cancer, which was, life-threatening, and you think, wow, that's tried to kill me, I might as well get on with it. And then, of course, my beloved dad died, and I just thought, right, today is the day I have to do it.
The thing that when I speak to commercial pilots, they all say, well, the thing is, Nev, the flying bit's pretty straightforward. Yeah. The bit where the decisions are made is in the briefing room and the plannings and all the rest of it. But in your case, it was everything. It wasn't just the planning, it was the flying itself, which was I mean, just unbelievably tough at times. Can you just give us an idea of how difficult that was?
Yes, I think the Mediterranean was the most difficult flight because I was starting to lose the plot. Because, of course, it was just in like a goldfish bowl because there's no horizon. When you're up at 5,000 feet, the horizon disappears. So the sea and the sky all become one. And, of course, because there's so much pollution around now, you get that just fuzz sort of bit. And so you start to not know which way is up. And when you're flying for such a long time, your brain kind of like needs a break. And of course I don't have any artificial horizon in the Tiger Moth, so I was just concentrating on what we call partial instruments, and that's quite difficult for a long time. So therefore you start to do this oscillation, and then as a commercial pilot you know that you're doing the oscillation and you're then trying to stop it. But of course you can't. As it goes on and on and on, you're starting to just do more and more and more. And I think that was the point that I was thinking, yeah, I'm going to end up in the drink.
When you left Biggin Hill initially, was the plan to do a VFR flight as far as possible?
Oh yes, there was no cloud. I mean, the Tiger Moth is fabric and wood. There is no icing protection, so you can't go into so much cloud because, of course, you might pick up icing. And just flying on those partial instruments. Now, Amy did fly in cloud inadvertently and fortunately managed to come out without hitting any ground. But no, there was no plan to be in any kind of cloud at all. And I wasn't in cloud in the Mediterranean. It was just that there was no horizon, which is very difficult, and there was nothing to see. But yes, all of my flights were planned VFR, which was another thing which was difficult because that's why I had to stay on the ground when it wasn't suitable. And of course then that knocks your timing.
Some of the weather that you encountered was just horrific, wasn't it? I mean, quite often against what was forecast as well, so you had to deal with it in the air. How challenging was that?
Yes. My next job is going to be a forecaster, the Met forecaster, because it's the job you can get consistently wrong and still be employed. So yes, often you get in and it'd be forecast to be absolutely fine, and then the thunderstorms would grow up out of nowhere because the temperature changes and the pressure changes, and suddenly you're facing massive thunderstorms. I mean, they're in the full wind span, you know, and they're all around you and where you're going to go. So often I actually was thinking I'm going to have to do a landing into a field just to make sure I don't go into a thunderstorm in a Tiger Moth, of course.
The other thing I noted from the book is that I think in the UK we're very friendly towards people, I mean especially GA pilots as well, where maximum assistance is always afforded to them. That wasn't the case in every country you visited, was it?
No, I became the hero and the villain in equal measures, and it was really funny, you know, I'd land in one place like Sibiu and be greeted like a hero, and in Beirut, and then you land in other places like Germany and Vienna and Rhodes and you're greeted like the complete villain because you're just sort of like an inconvenience to them. But I had to land at these big airports because of course customs these days, you can't go from one country to the next without landing in a customs airport, and if you don't have the smaller GA, and GA disappears when you're getting further down the countries, and that was the difficulty. So yes, it was really interesting being, like you say, a hero and a villain.
And what about the planning? How long did it take you to plan the route from scratch?
Well, I sort of jokingly say that it took me 15 years because, of course, I read Amy's journey and started planning straight away. And then, of course, wars break out and different countries have different permissions, so you have to then change it. But the actual planning was about 6 months when I finally decided to do it, from the starting of actually what the route I was going to do and figuring out which route of that particular day. So if I'd set off today, I'd probably have to do a different route.
Now, the aircraft itself, I mean, well, it had its moments, didn't it, in terms of some technical difficulties, but generally speaking, apart from a couple of fairly big moments, you had very good reliability in the aircraft, didn't you?
Oh, yeah, Axan was absolutely fabulous. She was maintained by ARC here at Duxford, the aircraft restoration company, and they inspected her fully. I had to do a bit of rebuilding beforehand, because of various things, and then we inspected the aircraft, made sure she was suitable to go on the long distance journey. So yeah, and I knew I'd have a cylinder head failure because everybody who's done long distance flying in a Tiger Moth has a cylinder head failure because it's just that point of sort of where it's going to fail. So I kind of knew that, but yes, apart from that, she did amazingly well.
Now tell us about, obviously you're flying the aircraft as pilot in command, but you had a team of people to assist you as well, didn't you? Tell us about some of those people.
I had one.
Ah, yes, that was right, yes.
So I did the majority of the work, and then Wiggy, the infamous Wiggy, who we are very good friends now. I have to say, unfortunately, we're not together anymore, but we're very good friends. I taught him to fly, so therefore I taught him to do all the customs and taught him to do all how to fill in GARs and all the rest of it. So he was doing a lot of the permissions on the emailing side of things, and it was basically the two of us. But when I landed, that was when it happened. So places like Mannheim, the people that came out, the engineer that came out to help me, because I had to just tweak the timing a little bit. Sibiu was amazing. They moved all their aeroplanes out so that my aeroplane could be in their hangar overnight for the thunderstorms. We had to fuel it from a milk jug, because that was the only way they could do it. And there was 3 of them bringing this milk jug and fueling it. And they all flew with me down the Sibiu Pass. So there was, 20 odd people that day helping me. So yes, there was only 2 of us doing the paperwork, but this was it. Beirut, I was surrounded by people that helped me. And in Rhodes, Paris, the engineer, I mean, he was just amazing. And that was the thing that really got to me. I hadn't really thought about that. Other people had told me, Polyvasha had told me that people would help you. And I thought, okay, that's fine. And of course, Amy was helped amazingly. But when it actually happens to you and you're, struggling for stuff and people are helping you, it's amazing what happens.
Rhodes turned out to be quite a station for you, didn't it? Tell us the story there.
Yes, I don't want to spoil the book or anything, but Rhodes, I had to have 2 episodes in Rhodes, and they thought I was doing it on purpose. And I'm kind of like, you never have an engine failure on purpose, trust me. Yeah. Unfortunately, it just happened that Rhodes was the place where I had the most difficulties. And the thing is, Germany owns now the airports. So you have the Germany sort of no is the first thing, and then it turns to maybe, and then it turns to yes after lots of paperwork. And then you have the Greeks' way of life of a manana, let's go and have a cup of coffee for 15 minutes, and then they had lots of strikes, and it was kind of like... Yeah. But as I say, Paris, the engineer, was just amazing. And he reminded me of my dad. His dad had made remote control models as well.
Oh, really? Oh,
he was lovely. Yeah.
Now, from a commercial point of view, this stuff costs money. Now, you had very limited sponsorship, and you were largely self-funded for a lot of this.
Yes.
How much of a challenge was that, do you think?
Massively. Because I've been trying to get sponsorship for years and years and years, and I wasn't going to do it until I had a big sponsor. And then, as I say, with the breast cancer and my dad dying, I just thought, well, I'm going to die, at one point very soon with the breast cancer, so I might as well do it, which I'm not now, by the way. But yes, so what happened with the sponsorship? I had discounts on things like the radios. Poolies helped me with oil and various bits of technical stuff. But that was it, basically. I had very small bits of sponsorship. ARC were great. But yes, it was me that funded it. Much to my mother's annoyance.
I'm sure, yeah.
But I just thought, when you're faced with a life-threatening thing and losing my dad, and my mum actually did turn around and said, if you're going to do it, you need to do it now, and that was before he died. And I didn't manage to do it in the year before he died, and I thought, right, life is for living. And I think a lot of people discovered that during COVID, actually. A lot of people reassessed their lives, and I think, if anything, that's what I can help people to do. And I'm not saying you fly around the world, I'm not saying you chuck everything at it, but if there's something that you'd really like to do, maybe just think about doing something towards that a little bit sooner rather than later.
What would you say that you learned about yourself on your journey?
How resilient I can be, and the incredible generosity of people, and that I like people more than I thought. Because I like flying solo, and therefore maybe I'm a bit of a loner, and I totally like that. I love being in the sky by myself with my aeroplane. There's something about that, figuring all your problems out. I just love that. So when you landed after a long flight and suddenly there was all of these people here, it was a little bit intimidating. But then as you started to talk to them and chat to them, I thought, wow, actually it's put my faith back in humanity, which I know sounds a bit wishy-washy, but it really did. People are just amazing.
Well, how about your physical fitness to actually undertake this in the first place? I mean, you went through some horrific weather with massive variations in temperature. How difficult was that for you?
Very, 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 very. I didn't put my thermals on. We're here on one of the hottest days, so we haven't got the... And I didn't put my thermals on because I thought in May it'll be fine, won't it? And it ended up being the worst weather in 50 years across Europe, which was very very cold, and I was shaking, and I was getting to the point where, you know, your core is really, really cold, and I thought, again, I'm going to have to do a precautionary diversion landing just to heat up a little bit. That was quite tough. It was, and then we went, me and the aeroplane went from being freezing cold to 40 degrees in one day, and I think that's what the aeroplane didn't like. But and that was quite a tough thing as well, going from being really, really cold to really, really hot and being dehydrated again was quite difficult.
So from a commercial pilot's point of view, it's all about CRM, it's all about working with your teammate in the cockpit.
Yes.
I mean, this couldn't be more different. It's all about you, isn't it? How do you translate from it all being about you, single pilot in this aircraft, to being in a commercial operation?
I didn't find that really difficult, because I've been commercial pilot now for over 20 years, if I really admit my age. So therefore I'm used to working in a team. And being in vintage, it's a team, because you have to have ground crew to help you, refuelers, air traffickers. You know, we are part of that massive big team. And when you're flying single pilot, you're relying on the air traffic. You're relying on them to help you with the weather. Sibu was great, you know, they were giving me the weather and where to fly in the air traffic side of things. So I think it's, even though you're flying by yourself and making your own decisions, and maybe you make your decisions a little bit sooner than you would do when you're flying with somebody next to you, but certainly I don't feel like it's that good. And as soon as you're on the ground, it's a team, isn't it? Because you're then interacting with refuelers, you're interacting with people tying the aeroplane down and doing all that kind of thing. I have learnt not to let anybody start my aeroplane. So it's hand swung, so I start it by myself. If they want to hold the throttle, that's absolutely fine. But when I was doing some long distance flying in preparation around England, I let somebody start it and they made a bit of a mess, and there was quite a lot of a fuel spill. So I thought, no, I will only ever let myself start the aeroplane. And that can be quite difficult, because people don't understand when you're in different countries and they've never seen this aeroplane. You get in a car and you turn the key, and there I am standing in front of the propeller starting it, and they're sort of all behind you, and you have to be quite
and it has to be chocked as well, presumably.
Yeah, and it has to be chocked. Yeah. So yes, I think that was quite easy to go from sort of being in the teamwork to. I did find it when I had the engine failure. It would have been nice if I'd had some crew there, because I think that would have been easier to manage when you got on the ground, because I think that was where my morale was a little bit tricky, because I was suddenly faced with, you know, how long are you going to be in here? Why are you being back? Here's the paperwork. Do this, do that, do that. Whereas I think if you had the crew, you'd be kind of like, hang on a minute, we're just going to discuss it. We're going to sort it out. Just give us a bit of a minute.
You did say to me earlier that you were interested in learning more about the engineering side of the operation as well. That's a big subject in itself. Do you think that's an important thing for you?
It is for me. I should have listened to my dad a lot sooner. Yeah, sorry, Dad. I should have listened to him so much more. Amy, of course, was an engineer. She was the first female aeronautical engineer in this country, and she became that before she actually became a pilot. So she did a lot of the engineering on her aeroplane, and she actually did quite a lot of stuff every single night, like cleaning the plugs and taking different oil and sorting things out. And I looked at that and thought, do I need to do that? And I did clean the plugs several times. And when I was having problems with the aeroplane, it was more the fact that I didn't know what was going wrong. So when I was ringing up the engineers to say what they needed to bring out to help me, I couldn't specifically say, yes, it's a head gasket. So having learnt a little bit more about that, I know that when things go wrong, at least I'll be able to say what I need them to bring out to fix.
We don't want to give the game away in terms of the book, because there's a lot in there as well, but do you think you've got another flight in you with this aircraft to go somewhere?
I would love to. I would love to. She's in rebuild at the moment. We'll talk about that in a bit. So I would love to do that. I would love to rebuild her, because then I've learnt how to fix her as well and do an awful lot more of that. And I'm not saying I'll still have the engineers come out to do various things, but that means then I can do all the 50 hours and do all the checks and do all the maintenance of her flying down to Australia. And yes, I want to do it and I want to complete it, but I need a sponsor this time. Me and my mum have run out of money, so.
And in terms of the feedback that you've had so far from women in particular, I would imagine that has been extremely positive.
Yes, absolutely. You know, this is it. I'm not saying that every woman has to fly down to Australia. That's a little bit of a big ambition. But if you're thinking about being a PPL, you know, there's so many ways you can get into flying. The British Women Pilot Association is fantastic. There's Elevate Her, all these kind of things with scholarships and sponsorship, gliding, microlighting, the fixed-wing microlighting world, the electric aeroplanes. It's not as expensive as people think it is. You think it's expensive because you're spending it in one go. But if you look at how much you spend on shoes or handbag or something like that, it's the same money, it's just in different amounts. So I would love more women to get into flight. And I know I've inspired a few women to fly. And I'd love to get that 6% up to 7%.
Yeah, and even though it's not very much at the moment, I think it's better than it's ever been right now in terms of getting people through, women through to the private and commercial sector, isn't it?
Yes, I think there is an awful lot more understanding out there. And what I love is the male community is fantastic at welcoming women into aviation. You know, people always say to me, you know, oh, it's misogynistic. Well, the world is misogynistic in one respect. However, I'm here at Duxford and I'm surrounded by amazing men who really help me to be a better pilot. And I think that's the important part of it. And I surround myself now by men who just want the best for me as a pilot more than anything else. And this is it, you know. I'm being interviewed by you, Nev. I've been interviewed by a lot of the male fraternity, and it's great. And this is it. And I think it would be. I think women add something to the side of it, that caring side of things, because in the mental side of things for men, again, I think it's still a barrier that they don't talk about stuff. And I find that a lot of my male colleagues are happy to come and talk to me quietly about things. And especially now that I've been very open about my dad dying and very open about breast cancer, they're happy to come and talk to me, because when you have things like cancer, that is a team sport. And that affects normally the male partner just as much or even more. And I think having more women into aviation actually helps bring up the mental side of things, which isn't discussed a lot at all.
It's an amazing story, Amanda. I was absolutely fascinated by reading the book and by listening to the audio book as well as I was driving around the country last week. I was on tenterhooks for a lot of it, because I was thinking, what the hell's going to happen next? You know, you just didn't know, and you didn't know either. That was the thing, was it? It's a beautifully written book and very well told story. And thank you very much indeed for coming to see us today at Duxford.
I mean, just so many people have said it's well written, and I get really emotional about that because I'm dyslexic, which we haven't discussed. But people telling me as a dyslexic that it's a well written book, and I wrote it, and Natalie and John, the publisher, have been great at editing it. But that's such a confidence boost for me. So thank you very much, and I'm glad you enjoyed it, and I hope it's out there for the wider world as well as just the aviation. But thank you very much.
And it's published by Grub Street Publishing.
Grub Street Publishing, and it's on Amazon, and the audio is available as well.
Brilliant. Nice to meet you.
Thank you very much.
Right, well, the question that we always ask all of our interviewees at the end of the interview is the following. Given the chance to fly any aircraft at all, be it GA, military, commercial, either in service or retired, and you could take it out on the airfield at Duxford now, what would it be?
Oh, that's a really good question. I would have said the Rapide, but I'm actually learning to fly that now, so that's amazing. Well, do you know what? I think it would have to be the Lysander, because of course that was the aeroplane that inspired me to fly originally, and I probably won't get to fly that, so yes. And also because of all the history of it, of, you know, the war and all the people and how that's been instrumental on helping sort of that side of things. Yeah, the Lysander.
That was an inspired choice. Well done.
Thank you.
Wow, brilliant interview, Nev. Thank you so much.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that, and thank you to Amanda for her time yesterday. What a fascinating story. It just shows you what is possible when you put your mind to things, isn't it? So, no, thank you very much indeed to Amanda for giving up her time yesterday morning. We'll see her again, hopefully, when we go to Duxford on the 14th of September, the Saturday, for the Battle of Britain Day, the first day, and she's going to be there in the bookstall area as well. So if you're coming along, let's hope we can meet up with her then as well. But again, thanks, Amanda. Really appreciate your time.
Do you know what? I'm surprised, Nev, you managed to find a quiet, unhindered sort of part of the the hangar to.
Well, we did get in there quite early, just as it opened, but as things were getting a bit busier, we had a family come up to her and us, and one of their young children started wiggling the camera a bit, so I had to chop that bit out and we had to redo a couple of bits. But no, it was fine because it's such a reverberant space in there, as you know. So if you start getting a lot of people in there, it's quite difficult. But we got in there as they opened, so that was handy. So that was great.
Excellent. So thanks again, Nev, for that. And there's a lot of love in the chat room for that as well, Nev.
Great interview. Really good interview.
Yeah. Thank you.
So it's time for Nev's favourite part of the show, as always, and it's time for some military news. So if everyone's ready.
Oh, yes.
Blast up bogeys 13550, Angel 16, heading 340. Okay. 100 St. Bogeys.
Now, Nev, I know you're not a huge fan of military news, but I hope you appreciate this story because it is regarding quite the aircraft, Nev. Don't you agree?
Yes. I mean, I don't, say that I don't enjoy military. It's just that I don't understand enough of it. That's my main difficulty. However, this aircraft is something else, isn't it?
Yeah, this comes to us from the vintageaviationnews.com. It's all about the Battle of Britain Memorial Flight Lancaster returning to the skies. So on August the 6th, the Battle of Britain Memorial Flight bomber aircrew took to the skies in Lancaster Papa Alpha 474 to practice the Lancaster display ahead of the return to the 2024 display season. As part of the day, it was confirmed that Air Officer Commanding Number 1 Group Air Vice Marshal Mark Fluin, CBE MA BERF, was awarded PDA, or Public Display Authority. They're now working with event organisers to confirm their activities for the flying season, subject to the weather and serviceability. They are pleased to announce that Lancaster will be available this year for air shows. During the UK winter, the aircraft, one of only 2 flying examples in the world, underwent extensive pre-planned maintenance, including the manufacture and replacement of the entire tailplane. After thorough inspections and testing, the Lancaster is now ready to fly again. The Avro Lancaster stands as the most renowned and successful Royal Air Force heavy bomber of World War II. The 7,377 Lancasters built, only 2 remain airworthy today. Papa Alpha 474 was constructed at the Vickers Armstrong Broughton factory in Hordern Airfield, Chester, on May the 31st, May 1945, shortly after VE Day. The war in the Far East concluded before she could be deployed, so she did not participate in any hostilities. The Royal Air Force Battle of Britain Memorial Flight, or the BBMF as we all know it, operates from RAF Coningsby in Lincolnshire. The mission of the RAF BBMF is to maintain priceless artefacts of national heritage in airworthy condition to commemorate those who've fallen in the service of the country. Additionally, the Royal Air Force Battle of Memorial Flight aims to promote the modern Air Force and inspire future generations. The flight operates 6 Spitfires, 2 Hurricanes, a Lancaster, a C-47 Dakota, and 2 Chipmunk aircraft, primarily for training. These aircraft are flown by regular Royal Air Force crews, and from May to September each year, the aircraft can be seen regularly in the skies over UK. They participate in public and military events ranging from state occasions, such as Trooping the Colour, to major air shows and flypast for public events. And for more information, if you want to find out more about the BBMF and what they do, you can go over to allthews.raf.mod or mod.uk UK to find out more info on there. Some great pictures, I will say, on there, what Matt is popping up on the screen.
Including this one here, which Mr. Warner is playing his usual game. So this last picture here was literally sent hot off the presses. He said that was hardly a challenge, though.
No, not with his new lens.
No.
If you've seen Mr. Warner's new lens, he requires a trailer to carry it.
I bet, he's saying, by the way, that was at Cosby last year, probably the best I've ever got, he says.
So good. But fingers crossed. I haven't looked at the updated list yet, but hopefully we'll see these guys at Duxford in September when we're there for our annual PTUK Duxford meetup at the air show. So, yeah, be good for that. Good to see that. Andy, we're looking at China.
Yes, so this is from interestingengineering.com, and China's new wing design with holes could tackle sonic booms. Sonic booms, shockwaves, and the shattered windows they often cause have been major obstacles preventing the return of supersonic aircraft. However, scientists from Northwestern Polytechnic University in China have found a remarkable way to reduce the effects of these phenomena. Conventional aircraft wings follow design principles established by the Wright brothers and rely on Bernoulli's principle. This dictates that faster airflow over the top of the wing results in lower pressure, while slower airflow underneath generates higher pressure, thus lifting the plane. However, as an aircraft approaches the speed of sound, shock waves come into existence, creating turbulence and drag. These reduce lift and cause damaging vibrations. The research team of the University School of Aeronautics proposed that strategic holes in the wing could solve these ill effects. They employed computer simulations and wind tunnel experts, which demonstrated that the holes in the wing distributed shockwaves and mitigated the ensuing vibrations. Remarkably, they also discovered a boost of over 10% in aerodynamic efficiency. Few countries are capable of producing supersonic jets today, as these require specialized and expensive construction to withstand the forces encountered at supersonic speeds. Additionally, the resulting sonic booms led to restrictions on supersonic travel over populated areas and, most notably, contributed to the retirement of Concorde in 2003. Not too sure on that one. The team's solution is simple, elegant, and effective. By covering the holes with a mechanism that only opens when the aircraft exceeds the speed of sound, they effectively manage the airflow around the wing. Within these holes is an air pump that adjusts the jet stream's intensity, limiting turbulence towards the wing's front. This reduces wing vibrations. Despite a slight loss in lift, the overall drag reduction results in a higher lift-to-drag ratio. While the team is now looking forward towards additional wind tunnel testing to refine their technology, other research teams around the world are seeking solutions to the challenges faced by supersonic flight. These efforts include adding grooves or protrusions to wing surfaces, employing mechanical devices to suppress shock waves, it's a tricky one, and apply piezoelectric film coatings to control airflow. NASA, in collaboration with Lockheed Martin, is expected to conduct the inaugural test flights of its experimental X-59 supersonic jet this year. This aircraft features an elongated nose and a cockpit without a forward-facing windscreen, designed to reduce the noise of supersonic flight significantly. The team, however, remains confident in their solution. When using jet stream control to suppress shock wave buffeting, although there is a slight loss of lift, it can reduce overall drag, so the lift-to-drag ratio increases rather than decreases, they noted in their report. Well, there we are. Some holes in a wing. Who'd have thought it? But if it works, it works.
Very much so. By the way, Mr. Warner was commenting on the photo there. He says he said in the chat that I've got going with him. He said, "That's no shockwave. This is a shockwave."
That is a shockwave.
The end result of a high speed Partian torrential rain. Apparently, that's what's.
That is so good.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, this is the limp version, and this is the hardcore version. There we go.
You almost want to get that and turn it upright,
like there's a rocket, essentially.
like a little like a little Christmas tree.
Indeed.
Which, if you're not watching the YouTube version of this, you need to get on YouTube and just check out some of the pictures that Matt's popped up on the screen there, because they are.
Can we raw
good.
dog looking at these pictures all day? Is that raw dogging? Is that the same thing?
I don't know. I've just been told off for using the word limp, but we'll move on from that.
Anyway, just going back to the last story that I've just checked up on the updated list on the Duxford's flight, the Battlebrook Memorial Air Show Day, which we are attending. More info on that later. Sally B and the Aviation Lancaster are going to be flying there together alongside the Spitfires and Hurricanes.
Nice.
Yeah. So, the quite an extensive list, actually, of what's flying there this year. Some good aircraft there. So, looking forward to that anyway. But moving on to the next part of the show. Nev, it's a competition giveaway time.
Yes, and as always with our competitions, there is complexity and difficulty, and this week is no exception. Let's tell you what the question was, first of all. When was the Tornado GR4 retired from RAF service? We wanted the exact date. Now, some sources are saying that it's the 14th of March 2019, and some say that it was the end of March 2019. So we've got a bit of a dilemma. So what we have done... the two people that were closest to those were Richard Adams and Rhys Newton. So what we're going to do is I'm going to send the Flying Through the Ranks book off to Richard. And then I've got another book here from Grub Street called Cold War Boys Overseas, True Tales by Those Who Served with the Royal Air Force Abroad by Graham Pitchfork. And the forward on this is from Sir Richard Johns. So I'm going to send that one to you, Rhys, if that's okay. We've got both of your addresses. And then we're going to do another competition, possibly during the week or maybe starting next week's show, because Amanda has very kindly given us a signed copy of her book to give away as well. So we'll do a competition possibly during the week or maybe starting on Wednesday of next week. So we'll see how we go with that. So lots of books, and thank you to Grub Street Publishing for their assistance with this as well. So I shall go to the nice post office tomorrow, not the nasty one that I went to earlier, and get those books off to you, Richard and Rhys.
Lovely.
Thanks for that, Nev. Now, last weekend, one of our team was very lucky indeed to be part of a large event local here in local in Norfolk, and it's right next door or very close to a very popular airfield where there was a large air show not so long back. But Matt Smith, our very own Matt Smith, got to go to Old Buckingham Country Hall. Was it Country Hall?
Country Park, yeah.
Country Park, yeah. And Matt, you got to see some other kind of flying.
Yeah, a really, really special weekend, and it's a shame actually that Richard E. Flagg isn't here as well, because I got another chance to catch up with him while they were there. It's Old Buckingham Country Park. They have a new tradition that they started, I think it's about 5 or 6 years ago, where they started basically a balloon festival. Now, last year, I have to say, was a bit of a letdown because they weren't able to get very many balloons in the air, because as I'm sure you can appreciate, weather is a key factor in getting the air balloons in the sky. But no such problems, certainly over Saturday and Sunday. We weren't able to do what we wanted to do because I was there with the radio station. We weren't able to do what I wanted to do with the radio station, which was James was going to do his show live from a hot air balloon. We weren't able to pull that one off, sadly. But we were able to put together some, you could just sort of see there, sort of like, they're just so majestic as the balloons are sort of basically taking off. One of the highlights for the balloon festival is to do with something that they call a night glow, which is something they do. Unfortunately, I've got to have the sound off for this because of it's done to music, basically, but you'll see what I mean. So this is what they call the night glow, where it's basically dusk. And they're sort of blowing the balloons up in there, but they're using that to sort of like do dances and sort of like basically move them to the music and stuff. It was a really amazing thing to see. Last last year I only got to see it with just the baskets because the wind was too strong to be able to put the canopies up, basically. So all the balloons are tethered on the ground, and then they do this, what they call the glow up, where they're blowing these, where they're basically the flames are going off to the music, essentially. Really quite special. There were a couple of other things that were unusual as well. There was and I think I sent this, I'm pretty sure I sent this to Jonathan Warner while I was there, and he was saying that he remembered seeing this some 30 years ago, and it was the first time that this balloon had been out of its bag. It can't fly anymore because, a bit like airframes, they have like a shelf life, for want of a better word. We also had a very rare appearance taken out of their bag for the first time in nearly 10 years of the old Bertie Bassett all sorts sort of hot air balloon. So this thing did used to actually fly and sort of take people across there. As I say, it looks a bit like a monster looming over the lake there at the moment.
But the Stay Puff guy out of
it is a bit like that, isn't it? Yeah, it did have sort of like echoes of Ghostbusters and stuff while we were there. This, I think, is one of my favourite videos that I took over the weekend, just because it really was a truly stunningly beautiful Sunday morning. So this was Sunday morning. I did something that I'd not done before, actually, because all the balloons were going up and that the radio station's usually on automation. So I actually started broadcasting at 5 a.m. in the end. I don't normally start till 7, but I just wanted to sort of try and give a bit of atmosphere for the people who were tuned in at that point. This again, apologies to those listening on the audio version, but and just look at that sky. I mean, you couldn't be in a more idyllic location, could you, with that? Can you see what I mean? How graceful they look as they're sort of slowly climbing into the sky. Just a really sort of peaceful and serene moment, because really, other than the roar of the burners, if you like, it's almost totally silent, especially at that point in the day. And there must have been something in the region of nearly 1,000 people all around the arena, even at 5 o'clock in the morning, to catch you can just hear I was just hoping we might be able to hear the roar of the burners, but you can't, unfortunately. It's the scariest thing I've ever done, Carlos. You'd have loved it. I was absolutely hating every single nanosecond of it, doing my breakfast show in front of basically 1,000 people for the 2 mornings that I was there, because we sit in our little boxes, don't we, and we just basically talk to ourselves. That's a much more comfortable way of doing it, as far as I'm concerned, to do it in front of an audience of over 1,000 people. There were actually 10,000 people there. That's how many tickets that they managed to have over that weekend. Absolutely amazing. And again, finally got to see some of the some of the balloons taking off, which I didn't get to see last year, and it was truly amazing. I've still got very little voice left, as you can probably hear from mine. It was an incredible weekend, some great live music, including an Ed Sheeran tribute act, who was absolutely incredible. Did all the loop pedals and everything. It was all live. There was nothing on tape. It was all done live using like the effects pedals and loop pedals and stuff that Ed Sheeran does. It really was quite. I can't see what they're laughing about, because unfortunately I can't see the other sides of this.
I'm just watching John.
Yeah, indeed. But it was a very, very memorable weekend. Gutted you couldn't make it, Carlos. I know you had other plans, but you would have absolutely loved this. It's the closest I will ever get to being a rock star, being on stage, broadcasting to all those people. It was a truly, truly magical experience.
And hopefully I'll go next year. Fingers crossed.
As soon as I'll get that date to you ASAP.
Good. No, Nick, you've got a question to ask people, haven't you, listening?
Well, actually, I've got an apology to make, first of all, because last week I was suggesting that maybe we don't have any listeners because nobody ever writes into us. But I should correct myself by saying that our good friend, who always gets a mention, to be fair, because he is a big part of our community, Mr. Jonathan Warner, has, thanks to Jonathan, I've now got the military show notes for next week already wrapped
brilliant.
up.
Right. Oh, very good.
So I can take the weekend off. So thank you, Jonathan. So yes, it's all about engagement with the show, and we love hearing from you. So please be part of it. Write in, send us your stories, Send us video clips, audio clips from your phone. Doesn't matter what it is. It'll always get played out. Any photos you might have, if you've been to see some flying or an air show, send it in, because it's always great to hear from you, and we love to see what you guys have been up to.
There you go. So, for the benefit of those who might be out and about in September, Nev, where are the team heading off to?
Yeah, so we've talked about Duxford. We're going there on Saturday, the 14th of September this year for the Battle of Britain air display. It's actually over 2 days, which are going to be there on the first day. Entertainment starts from 8 a.m. through to 6 p.m. I'm not sure we'll be there at 8 o'clock, but we'll see how we go. Advanced tickets only. This is the important bit. You can't just turn up. You've got to book with the IWM first of all on their website, and the tickets are from £49.50 plus a £5 car parking fee. Children under 15 go free with the standard tickets only, and the Imperial War Museum members save 10%. So we'll be there on the 14th of September, as I mentioned earlier. My good friend now, Amanda Harrison, will be there, hopefully doing some book signing as well over at the bookstore also on the Saturday. So we look forward to meeting her again then.
Excellent.
Let's hope for some good weather. And I forgot to say thank you, Amanda, for buying me an ice cream yesterday.
Oh, wow. Happy days.
That was very welcome indeed. So thank you. Most kind.
Just want to make a quick mention to someone who we had on the show not so long back. If you remember, we had Raya, who was on the show. She was in the process of making her way into flying long haul. I can confirm, for those of you who did watch the show with her on it, it's a great interview we had with Raya. She's actually this week done her first long haul flight on the A330. So congratulations to Raya this week on her first long haul flight. So yeah, onwards and upwards, literally for her. So congratulations from all the team here to you. So where can people find us, Andy, on the old social medias?
Oh, I knew you were going to ask me that. That's why I've got it ready. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, or X, whatever you want to call it, Instagram, by searching for Plain Talking UK. You can also email us at podcast@plaintalkinguk.com. You can find us on our website, www.plaintalkinguk.com. But why not subscribe to our YouTube channel? You get notifications when we go live, and you can shape the conversation of the show by joining us in the chat room. Just go to youtube.com and search once again for Plain Talking UK.
There we go. Send us an email. We'd love to hear from you. Quick round robin before we finish. We'll start with you, Nick. What are you up to next week?
I'm having a week off work.
Oh, steady. Where are you going? What are you doing? Where are you going? What are you doing?
Well, hopefully, might be able to see Mr. Bounds, all being well. Ooh. So watch this space.
Yes. Now, actually, I have. That's the 23rd, isn't it? Is that
next
right?
Wednesday.
Yes, so that's good, because I wasn't sure whether I was going to be around, but I shall be around, I believe. So, yes, let's have a chat during the week.
Yes, indeed.
Andy, what are you up to next week?
I'm about to head off at the weekend to live in a hotel in Gatwick for 2 weeks straight on a course. So nothing particularly exciting, but it means I will be on the show for the next 2 weeks.
Oh, well, I mean, good news for us.
Yes, I mean, the hotel
eating lots of
room
takeaway.
Yeah, I was going to say the hotel room will probably look tidy on the first one, but then by the time we're 2 weeks in, I may have to blur the background.
Do you not make them come in and sort it all out for you, Andy? I mean, come on.
Yes.
Do they not know who you are? I mean, come on, there are standards to be adhered to.
Yes, well, we'll see.
Yeah.
And Matt?
No, not really. I'm doing some stage announcing for some music festival next weekend in Redgrave. This weekend in Redgrave, which so it's a bit of a weird one for me, really. Otherwise, obviously, campaigning, trying to save our lovely little radio station.
Excellent, always good. John, busy next week?
Yeah, I'm going to be really busy traveling around for work a lot.
How did you do that?
You didn't see me there? I was there too.
Oh, Rude. Rude. I'd have made you buy me an ice cream.
Excellent. Right, that is where we're going to wrap up episode 515 of the show. Big thanks to everyone who's joined us tonight. Pardon, Alexa?
Oh.
Okay. Can't remember saying the A word then.
No,
anyway,
no, indeed.
Thanks to all the chat room for joining us tonight. Thanks to all the chat room family for tuning in. And also thanks to everyone who downloads and listens to us as an audio show. So from me, Carlos, here in the home studios, from Matt in the P2K Master Suite studios, from Nick in his glorious studio there down south, and from Nev in his studio, from Andy in his pub studio, and from John in his virtual studio. Have a great week. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next week. Say goodbye, Nev.
Oh, I had volume down then. Goodbye. I've got to say that I'm flying next week as well. Well, I'm not actually operating the A320 because I don't think I'd be allowed to do that. But
That's for the best, Nev.
Off to Edinburgh. But I'm doing there and back in a day because the hotels in Edinburgh this coming week are phenomenally expensive.
Oh, you know why though, don't you? Because the fringe is still on.
A bit of that, yes. And it's the
I
holidays.
enjoyed the Fringe last week.
I bet, yeah.
Went to see a couple of shows. There's one called the Thinking Drinkers. You ever heard of them?
No, that sounds terrifying.
As you go, it's a musical about booze, and as you go in, they hand you a bag with 5 drinks in it that you have to drink at certain points during the show.
That sounds great.
It was brilliant.
That sounds terribly irresponsible.
It was excellent. I can't remember.
I like the wording. You
we got a
have to drink.
5-star. Yes. Oh yes, you have to drink because at certain points they now open up this whiskey. Now open up this vodka. Now open up this can of cider.
It's like those, what was it, the scratch and sniff cinema experiences.
Yeah. To me, they all smelt of oil every time you scratch them. That was a long time ago, wasn't it?
Scratch and sniff.
You can get some cream for that, though. So.
Oh, dear.
Surprised Ryanair.
Especially if it's raw.
Oh, dear.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, yes,
mind,
the level of innuendo tonight was excellent. Well done, chaps.
In your endo, sir.
We haven't had any poo stories for a while. I'll have to get on
No, we just had one about dogging instead. I mean, what could possibly...
Raw dogging.
Not
my
dogging, raw dogging. There's a distinct difference between the two.
Family show, Mr. Smith, family show.
Keep telling you that. Anyways, that's bizarre, isn't it? That's an unusual one where somebody's telling me it's a family show. Never mind. Hey. Oh, the Balloon Festival was so amazing. It's one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. Oh, Nev, do I have your permission to use Seat 1A in a couple of weeks when I go to Austria?
Yes. Although I have to say, I think we could do with a bit of aircraft refurbishment at BA at the moment. Some of the seats are
tired.
Not as they once were.
Oh, I feel a Nev's terminal tantrum coming.
No. Well, you might have one by next week because if I have a big moment on Monday and people don't get out of my way as I'm.
I shall
Pounding through
preemptively put
the
one in the show notes.
Is raw dogging allowed in seat 1A? I don't think it is it?
Well, in some of the aircraft it might be because they've got those ex-BMI A320s that have got the additional tables in front, so you could actually
get special dispensation in 1A, don't
yes.
Talking of show
written
notes,
permission,
I am going to try and throw as much together as I can, but I'm going to be away from Saturday.
That's all right.
And I'm going to be pretty
Sunday.
chock-a-block.
Will you be
next
joining
week.
us on Wednesday or not?
Well, yeah, hopefully be joining from Nev's house.
I see. Lovely. Exciting.
But I'm going to be busy doing other stuff, which means I'm not going to be able to work on the notes. But
that's all right.
I've actually already got 6 stories lined up for commercial, and I've got the military sorted. So I think, like, on the whole, we should be okay, but just a bit of pre-warning that it might need somebody else to finish stuff up on my behalf.
I must make myself a reminder to go off on Sunday to actually take a microphone with me.
Yes. Have you got one of those as well, or you just use a...
I do have one of them, but it's got a leg missing, so I have to prop it up.
How on earth did you lose a leg?
I was going to say.
It came off.
How? They're like moulded.
It snapped off.
Oh dear. What were you using it for?
They are literally about 3p on Amazon.
Danger, yeah.
Are they?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll have a look.
Yeah, they're not expensive.
No, they're not expensive.
Send me a link to the right one, because I'll buy the wrong one otherwise.
All right, I'll do it I'll do it for you now.
Thanks. I'll get it sent direct to the hotel. Right. Oh, it's 9:05. Are we still on there?
We're still on there.
Yeah.
We're still broadcasting, yeah.
Good job tonight, chaps.
Yeah, well done, everyone.
Yes, Richard and Reese, I've got to get another couple of envelopes because I don't have enough of your books.
Don't staple them, though, Nev, for goodness sake.
No, let's not put a staple through it after today's event. My word.
Something about legless pilots there, Andy. I don't know if you saw that one.
I mean, there's plenty of them around.
Absolutely.
Right. Well, I need to actually leave you for this evening because I've got some stuff to prepare for tomorrow.
Indeed.
My drive down to Cardiff and Swindon. Swindon, that's Jonathan Warner country, isn't it?
Oh,
that sort of area.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm going to go and lay on the grass because hopefully it's cold.
20. What's outside? 20.
Oh, don't put a number on it.
24 outside.
You're going to do grass angels.
Yes, absolutely. I ended up putting the fan on in my bedroom because the dog had decided he was going to lie on my bed, basically. But the poor little tyke is panting like a mad thing, bless him, because it's so hot for old doggies, bless him.
Right. Well, I've got to go.
Yes, indeed.
Final words from you, Nev, just before we sign off from the chat room.
Yes, by all means. And thanks, everyone, for viewing and listening today. Really appreciate it. Thanks for your very positive comments about the interview with Amanda as well. Really appreciate that. That was great. She was able to do that this week. In the meantime, I hope you have a great rest of the week and weekend, and we will see you same time next week. So bye for now.